Thursday, 7th February 2023. To present the news, my name is Priscilla Muziamba. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines. President Hichilema assures citizens of effective measures to improve meal situation in Zambia. Cancer mortality may increase to nearly 1 million deaths per year by 2030. Pope, Anglican and Presbyterian leaders denounce anti-gay law. Protests against Quran burning held across the Middle East. And the Premier League has charged Manchester City with more than 100 breaches of its financial rules following a 4-year investigation. And now the news. President Hakainde Hichilema of Zambia has assured citizens that the New Dawn government has put in place effective measures to address the issues surrounding meal, a staple food in the country. During a church service interaction at Heroes Stadium in Lusaka, President Hichilema took the time to address the concerns of citizens and assure them that his administration is committed to improving the situation. The World Health Organization Regional Director for Africa says cancer mortality may increase to nearly 1 million deaths per year by 2030 if there are no urgent and bold interventions. According to her, an estimated 1.1 million new cancer cases occur each year in Africa, with about 700,000 deaths. She said this in a message to commemorate the 2023 World Cancer Day. Pope, Anglican and Presbyterian leaders denounce anti-gay laws. Pope Francis was backed by the ceremonial head of the Anglican Communion and top Presbyterian minister in calling for gay people to be welcomed by their churches, as he decried laws that criminalize homosexuality as unjust. The three Christian leaders spoke on LGBTQ rights during an unprecedented joint airborne news conference on Sunday while returning home from South Sudan, where they took part in a 3-day ecumenical pilgrimage to try to nudge forward the young country's peace process.
Just before traveling last month, he gave an interview in which he talked about the issue of homosexuality, saying in his view, it's not a crime. It's a sin, yes, because it is a relationship outside of marriage, which is a sacrament for Catholics. But it's a sin like how it is a sin not to be charitable to be others. But a crime with some places having a punishment of a death penalty, to him, that's an injustice. He was asked this question because there are several African countries where it's listed on the books as a crime, South Sudan being one of them. And he said that that is an injustice. It shouldn't happen. He believes that even condemning a person who is homosexual, condemning them is a sin. Criminalizing it is just pure injustice. Homosexuals should not be marginalized. It is a human condition. So he was very clear on that point. The same question was also posed to the Anglican leader, Justin Welby, and he said he was against the criminalization of homosexuality, much like the Pope. Some issues there in terms of African bishops on this issue on the Anglican Church, but he said there are many different thoughts on this, and they are trying to push for it to be against criminalization, but there are many thoughts on that issue.
Protests were held on Friday in several predominantly Muslim countries to denounce the recent desecration of Islam's holy book by far-right activists in Sweden and the Netherlands. Fortunately, the protests ended with people dispersing peacefully. In Pakistan's capital of Islamabad, police officers stopped some demonstrators trying to march toward the Swedish embassy. Similar rallies were also held in the southern city of Karachi and in the northwest.
Now, Turkey's president has warned Sweden not to expect his support in its bid to join the NATO military alliance. His comments come after a far-right politician burned a copy of the Quran outside Ankara's embassy in Stockholm at the weekend. The incident has set off a series of protests across the Middle East.
Condemnation in Yemen's capital Sana'a against the burning of the Quran, Islam's sacred scripture. The incident in Sweden has caused outrage in parts of the Middle East.
It's important to boycott Sweden. It's become our duty.
In Iraq's capital, Baghdad, protesters gathered in front of the Swedish embassy, calling for its closure.
This is offensive to all Muslims. We don't want it to happen again. And we're calling on the European Union to condemn such insults to religions.
On Saturday, Rasmus Paludan, head of a far-right Danish party, held a protest in front of Turkey's embassy in Stockholm. The Swedish-Danish national set fire to the Quran. Sweden's prime minister called the act deeply disrespectful, but defended the right to free speech. That has put Sweden's NATO application in jeopardy. Accession to the military alliance must be approved unanimously by member states, including Turkey.
It is clear that those who allowed such vileness to take place in front of our embassy can no longer expect any charity from us regarding their NATO membership application. Sorry, but we said this at the beginning. So you will let terror organizations run wild on your avenues and streets, and then expect our support for getting into NATO? That's not happening.
Sweden and Turkey appear to be making headway in NATO negotiations. The Quran provocation is putting their ties to the test yet again.
And finally, in sports news, the Premier League has charged Manchester City with more than 100 breaches of its financial rules following a 4-year investigation. It has referred the club to an independent commission over alleged rule breaches between 2009 and 2018. It also accused City of not cooperating since the investigation started in December 2018. Manchester City said they were surprised by the charges and are supported by a body of irrefutable evidence. The Commission can impose punishments ranging from a fine and points deduction to expulsion from the Premier League. As we end the news, let's take a look at the stories making headlines. President Hichilema assures citizens of effective measures to improve meal situation in Zambia. Cancer mortality may increase to nearly 1 million deaths per year by 2030. Pope, Anglican and Presbyterian leaders denounce anti-gay law. Protests against Quran burning held across the Middle East. And the Premier League has charged Manchester City with more than 100 breaches of its financial rules following a 4-year investigation. We've come to the end of the news. My name is Priscilla Muziamba. God bless.